Welcome to the chapter 24 of the discussion today, which is managing organizational behavior across cultures. If we remember, when we started our journey with organizational behavior, we came to know about the individual variables, what the background the individuals bring into the organization, their abilities, their demographics, their family backgrounds, their personality pattern, their attitudes, their values, all these things they bring into the organization. They interact with the system in the organization in form of the values which are nurtured by the organization and practiced by the organization, its cultures, the norms of the organization. They get introduced to it through the process of socialization, and they interact with the group, they form a part of the group, they take certain roles in the organization. As a result, they become group members or team members. They function within that team, they communicate with the team members, and they either become leaders or followers and contribute to a team work. And in between, number of individuals factors play a role in how they perceive things around them, that is their perceptions, emotions, attitudes, values. All these affects the workplace behavior along with their group dynamics functions like the cohesiveness of the group norms, how decision making gets influenced in the group through the group shift and group think processes, how individuals decide within the organization, how they communicate with the organization. Along with all these behaviors happen within a system, the framework of the organization, and that is nurtured by the organizational design and structure of the organization that helps to nurture all this organizational behavior. And as a result, we find some performance of the organization related to its effectiveness and also some outcome behavior on the part of the individuals, either in terms of job satisfaction, engagement, commitment of the employees, or if these things are not adjusting, we also find some negative behaviors of the employees in terms of absenteeism and other misbehaviors in the workplaces. These are the things, like when you are talking of organizational behavior and how it is, what are the behavior taking place within the organization as the interaction of the individual with the system of the organization, and the group, individual interacting with the groups, and the individual and group together with the organization as a system. Today we are going to focus on how organizational behavior gets affected by the context or the culture of the country, the place where the organization is situated. And these are contextual variables which has a tremendous impact on the policies of the organization, the practices of the organization, the values of the organization. They have either they try to all these contextual factors in terms of the legal status of the place, and ethical considerations, or the societal norms, or the economic conditions, or the political conditions. These try to influence the functioning of a particular organization, and organization also sometimes give feedback and try to affect all these external systems of a particular country. This interaction is more true in case of MNCs, where they have branches at the different, where they have branched in different countries, and they have to get adjusted to the local culture, local norm, local legal practices and political conditions, economic conditions, if they are to survive in that environment. And the people within that organization have to understand the feel of the local place, have to get adjusted to the like norms, societal norms, cultural norms of the local place if they are to communicate well with their customers over there, or they have to adjust with the group people like other team members of that country if they are working in diverse groups who are also coming from that local country. So, all these affects the functioning of the organizational organization and affects the effectiveness of the particular organization. So, here in this chapter we are going to consider how the cultures and the different dimensions of the culture affects the organizational behavior of a particular organization. So, here the objectives of this particular chapter are to understand the conditions affecting multinational operations, managing international workforce, what are the productivity and cultural contingencies, and most importantly what is cross-cultural communication. So, under the conditions affecting multinational operations, we can classify these conditions under different headings like social conditions, legal and ethical conditions, political conditions, and the economic conditions of a particular country. The overriding social conditions which are affecting multinational operations are like sometimes the country in which the organization is functioning, its human resources are poorly developed and it is not up to the mark to deal with the complex technology. So, what has to be done for in that case is there is a lot of expenditure, lots of investment involved in training their own people to come up to that level. And if time is not there, if there is like certain there is an emergency of time and there is no such time left to like first I will train my people, they come up to a level and then will function. So, in that case what is required that the organizations look beyond their own country to countries where skilled people, human resources are available to do the work which is there at hand now. And what is the strategy taken is like it is a either skilled people are temporarily imported from other countries or the job is outsourced, and along with the training up of own employees to bring them up to the standard where they can perform this work. So, next is like when local cultures are, this happens when the local cultures are not very familiar with the complex technology or organizations. So, in this what we have to face, because there will be a mix of people from different countries, different skill levels, competencies, and as different countries vary in their what they understand by the meaning of work, and so there could be issues regarding the work ethics of employees from different countries, because people, what is the meaning of work, whether it is externally oriented, whether it is internally oriented. So, this differs across the cultures, and in MNCs where there is a mix of employees, there could be issues regarding the how to deal with this difference in work ethics. Next we will come to conditions which are like legal and ethical conditions. So, there some of the overriding legal and ethical conditions are, there are differences across countries in their legal system. specifically in terms of the leave rules, benefits to be given to the employees, like then what are the minimum wages to be given, and what are the allowable leaves, and whether there are any health benefits or not, sickness or wellness leave. These sort of things vary across countries, and whether it is totally philanthropic in nature or it is guided by rules and regulations, laws, these varies across country, and like equal employment opportunity is practiced or not, whether there is a law regarding that or not, what are the issues, laws, minimum safety qualities to be maintained or not. All these factors vary across countries, and accordingly business practices also vary across countries. The importance given to these things by law will guide the business practices, and accordingly business practices will vary across countries. So, if one organization from one country is to go and do business in another country, it has to be very conversant about these laws and the business practices of the organization which is prevalent in that particular country. So, and there are also differences in judicial system regarding the time of disposition of cases, and the fines charged and the penalties for like seemingly minor offences. These, and what is considered to be a minor offence and what is considered to be a major offence, that interpretation differs from country to country, and laws regarding it, time taken for the disposal of a particular case, all these vary from country to country, and the MNCs have to adjust to these situations. So, there are differences in across countries in local customs, mores, societal values, understanding, and ethical behaviors. So, again there are differences also in terms of treatment of women across countries, and the minorities, and whether do we what we do to control workplace discrimination, whether we are guided by any laws or not. So, whether there is an equal employment opportunity or not. So, what is the view of this particular country when you are talking like taking into consideration issues of bribery? What is bribery in a particular country and what is gift in a particular country? It varies from country to country in how they see that. What are the business like generally practiced way of doing business in a particular country. So, these varies according to the social norms, issues. So, and the organization has to learn these things if it has to function well in a particular country. Now, as far as ethical conditions are concerned, what is ethical or not? Like if a country practices discrimination, or like if it discrimination against minorities, or women are not considered as job discrimination is done based on the gender, and women are not treated equally as per men, and like so in these cases, because these become ethical issues, then whether the MNC will try to follow the local country's customs, or will try to follow the parent country's thing, will depend on the power, again the power dynamics shared by the country and the organization. If the organization is powerful enough, and if it is bringing in great changes at times of job situation is considered, or in terms of bringing growth in the particular like local country is considered, and if it sees like it is practicing some of the unethical practicing something which is defined as unethical or like something which is detrimental towards the concept of like when you're talking of sustainability issues in terms of like taking care of the people and planet and along with the profit. So here, because the MNC brings in changes in terms of economic conditions, creating job opportunities and all these factors in the local country, it has its own responsibility here to oversee that no unethical practices are done in the local country as far as discrimination or harm to the environment or to the people or to the business practices are concerned. And they can tell like to the organizations where they are outsourcing their job to follow the practices which are globally accepted standards of ethical way of doing a particular business, and like the practices which will make a business sustainable business practices. So there the MNC has a major role to play. The political conditions which are affecting multinational operations are like the instability of the particular government of the particular host country may spill over to the organizations which are trying to establish business in that particular country, as they may become skeptical towards like whether to invest further or not, because the instability in the government may provide hindrances towards the functioning smoothly in that particular organization, in that particular country. So issues regarding like these things, like because these instability leaves workers insecure and makes them further lower in initiative and passive towards the work. So if there are issues regarding government instability of the host country, it definitely affects the functioning of the MNCs. So strong nationalistic drive may impel locals to desire to run their country and their organization by themselves, and they do not want or allow any foreign interference by foreign people and nationals. And here what happens, a foreign manager may simply not be welcome in these situations, because this happens again from either a feeling of strong patriotism or a feeling of insecurity, like our own rights will go in the hands of others. Then in some cases these organized laborers are not independent in themselves, but in many situations they are guided by strong political forces, and they are the arm of the authoritarian state. So they are more class conscious, and negotiation and they are more oriented towards political action than like direct negotiation with the organization. So what is found in this, like the state gets involved in the collective bargaining process and other employee layoffs and other processes, and employee transfers which may affect workers. So, because state here plays a major role of a parent, and this in industrial relations scenario, it has got three actors: the organization, the host, the management, maybe from the different country, the particular organization where it gets established, the scenario, local scenario, and the employees over there, and it is these decisions backed by government support, and collective bargaining, which is backed by them. Any decisions to be taken is to be backed by the government support, because the unions are mostly part of like it has a political coloring to it. So, these becomes a ground for the political parties to show their powers, and the issues sometimes go out of hand, and which no longer remains at the organizational level, and it becomes political issues. So, these could be concerns, and these may stop the production process, either due to the demands of the employees, or like the MNCs want to create a pressure by stopping the work and see like how things go, or what they do is they may shift their place of work. So, here we find number of examples regarding where the work processes have stopped due to workers' protest, or like trade unions protest regarding the role of contractual workers, and pressurizing the management to or trying to negotiate with them regarding what are the benefits to be given to the contractual workers as compared to the permanent workers, like making some of the like telling the company to absorb some of the temporary workers as permanent workers, and issues related to that. And then the problems of the with the local people, as far as the not like in order to that they should be given employment in the organization. So, these are certain issues which affect the functioning of an organization in a legal and ethical setup and political setup, where the political parties majorly back these type of movements by the people like within the organization, or of the people in the area where this organization is situated, regarding different aspects of the functioning of the organization. The economic conditions are the economic conditions affecting the multinational operations are lower per capita income, and rapid inflation make the economic life of the workers insecure. So, what they do is they try to spend more at present, and not to save for their retirement security, because they understand like the value of that money will become much less till the time they retire, and this develops their dependence on the government, which is often incapable of responding to their demands, and this gives rise to social unrest. So, economic condition of the country where the MNC is functioning, these also affects the functioning of the particular MNC and the behavior of the people within the organization. So, when they have access to money? Do you find a rapid change in their lifestyle? Their maybe sometimes their addictions increase. All these factors, because they are so much insecure about their future and they understand the money value is going to get less. So what they try to do is to get as much of like as much of sort of an entertainment or positive gratification, immediate gratification of needs through like spending very rapidly. Now, without securing for the future, and spending rapidly at present makes them more dependent as and on the government, and if the government is not able to respond to these demands, what they'll try to do again they may create pressures, or there's also pressure from the society on the MNC to take care of some of these aspects. So all these are functioning as if as related in a circle, and one of the issue is definitely connected with the other issues. So, and the MNC has to deal with all these things simultaneously. So, if you are looking only at the economic condition and you are not looking at the political and social or the legal conditions, maybe you are not able to take the correct decision or the correct way of doing business in a particular country. So, when there is a particular issue at hand, all the 5 or 4 dimensions which could affect that particular thing has to be looked simultaneously, and its interaction of these things on each other have to be taken care of while the MNC decides its policies and practices for functioning effectively in a particular country. Next is important factor for discussion over here, which may affect organizational behavior, are the individual differences in the workplace. So, as we see, like the 5 major dimensions that results in the sharpest differences among employees include individualism, collectivism, the power distance, uncertainty avoidance, masculinity, femininity, and time orientation. Like organizations which are functioning in cultures that emphasizes individualism, and they tend to accent individual rights and freedoms. They have a very closely knit social network and place a considerable attention to self-respect. So, in collectivist culture, there is more emphasis on group values, and it values harmony among people. Individual feelings are sometimes subordinated to the group's overall goal. So, face saving, that is maintaining one's self-image in front of others, is highly important in collectivistic culture. Collectivistic culture. So, again, power distance, it denotes the legitimate, it's a belief like the strong and legitimate decision making rights separate managers and employers in different cultures. Employees in different cultures, in some countries the power distance is very high, and some countries the power distance is very low, and they are more or less functioning as team members. But in countries where power distance is high, the organizational structure is more that of a like tall structure, because people love to be directed, and they love to take orders from others. And when it comes to like giving feedback and like the communication pattern which is encouraged is more of a downward communication and rather than upward communication. So you have to understand like what is the power distance preferred in a particular country before we design our organizational structure over there. So next is when you are talking of uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance is the value for clarity and preference to avoid ambiguity at workplace in different cultures. Some cultures love ambiguity and some cultures love clarity, some are in between. We have to know how to function where. Next is when you are talking of masculinity and femininity as viewed in a particular organization functioning in a particular country. Masculinity and femininity is how gender roles get defined in more traditional and stereotypical ways, and or whether it's like you have a broader perspective regarding the great variety of roles that both males and females can play in the workplace and at home in different cultures. So, in some countries it's more masculinity is preferred in terms of aggression, then in terms of like less of emotionality and upright behavior. All these are taken to be good qualities of masculinity. In some countries, femininity is preferred in terms of softness of behavior and submissive type of behavior, and less of aggressive ways of approaching things and more caring approach. These are like feminine, like viewing the work and the role in a more feministic way. And and that also defines like defined in countries like whether males can play this role and females can play this role. That is well defined in some countries and in some cultures, and organizations have to adjust to it. Time orientation is again what importance the cultures present on the whether it's a necessity for future or like valuing the past and emphasizing on the present. So, what is to be done, what is the orientation that you can understand with interacting with the people, that cultures of the place, if you communicate with other people of the same country, you get to know what is their orientation to the time, and accordingly you have to adjust to that time orientation. Otherwise, you do not get accepted in that particular country while doing the business over there. And so, individual differences also occur due to the difference in the culture, the emphasis it plays on using situational cues to develop a complete portrait of a visitor. So, whether it is a like field dependent or field independent type of personality is preferred or not, that depends on the like again the culture you are functioning. So, high context cultures like they tend to emphasize personal relations, place and high value on trust, focus on non-verbal cues and accent the need to attend social needs before business matters. But in low context cultures, business is very important and they try to rely on written rules and legal documents, and then conducts the business first and value expertise and performance. So, if these are two different ways of functioning in a particular country and you want to go and start your business there. So, without knowing this, how this the people behave and what importance do they place on things like whether they prefer more on the like social side. You get to know one another socially, try to adjust with their situations, and then business can follow, and then we can understand the what are our requirements for the business. Or we talk of business first and then try to find out like what are the backgrounds. So these countries will vary in these orientations, and these affects the functioning of MNCs. So in addition to individual differences, parochialism, ethnocentrism, cultural distance and culture shock can have an impact on cultural adaptation. So parochialism is the predisposition of expatriate managers to see situations around them from their own perspective. That is the perspective that is based on the culture of the home country in which the organization is based, and not from the perspective of the culture of the host country in which international operation is spread. So parochialism is they try to import their own values into the host country and see like how it is working over there without considering the need of the people in the host country and the local culture. So this is called parochialism. Next is when you are talking of ethnocentrism or self-preference, is the condition where expatriate managers feel like their homeland conditions are the best. So expatriate employees, what they need is to develop cultural empathy to integrate the imported system of the values along with the social system of the local place where the MNC is functioning. The cultural distance is the amount of difference between any two social system, and it ranges from a minimum to substantial amount of cultural distance. So if there is too much of cultural distance, then what happens, like the adjustment of the people within the like the expatriates, when they are traveling from one country to the another, it becomes very difficult because nothing matches, no transfer of training can be, or learning or practices can happen, and everybody has to start to know afresh new ways of looking at the thing and new ways of practicing and new ways of learning. So if cultural differences are great, but if it is less, then what happens, there is less of cultural distance and people can transfer their training, transfer their learning, background experiences, and try to get adjusted with the situation quickly. So this gives, whether there is a minimal distance between the two cultures or whether there is much of substantial distance between the two cultures, gives rise to a phenomena which is called culture shock. In culture shock, what it is the feeling of confusion, insecurity and anxiety caused by a strange new environment which is totally new to the particular employee. So they are rightfully concerned with not knowing how to act, how to adjust in a particular situation, and about losing their self-confidence when wrong responses are made. So, the behavior of the people become very clumsy when they are not able to adjust to situations, because they are not able to understand what is going by their side and how to accept the cues from the environment, how to communicate with them, how to give feedback. So, when that gives rise to like lots of anxiety and insecurity in the employees. So, because sometimes they fear like they may make wrong responses which may be criticized by the people over there and may lower their self-esteem. So, so that creates again a feeling of insecurity in the people. So, what happens when employees enter another nation? They may experience several reactions in the series of 4 phases, which are as follows. So, in the first phase, they are very often excited by the and stimulated by the challenge of the new job, home and culture. So, like each day is filled with new discoveries. So, this positive phase, which is often called the honeymoon phase, is soon followed by a second phase of disillusionment, as they discover various problems they had or had not anticipated before. So, after this honeymoon phase is over, after that initial excitement is over, then people soon realize like they have like various problems, they have come up with various problems, and these they could not anticipate before. The third phase is where they tend to suffer culture shock, which is the insecurity and disorientation caused by encountering all parts of a different culture. So, culture shock may happen from encountering a different management philosophy and unfamiliar language. It can happen from anything from new ways of dressing, new foods, driving patterns, etc. So, unfamiliar currency system, reduced availability of goods, different attitudes towards work, we are talking in terms of work ethics and productivity, and separation from friends and work colleagues, so whom they were familiar with, comfortable with. All these factors gave rise to a culture shock. Reverse culture shock is another factor which happens like after the culture shock, when the employees come to know like okay, they have to adjust to this situation because they have to stay over here, they try to learn the new culture and get adapted to it, and it starts assimilating within the people. After they have stayed in the new culture for a considerable part of time, so when the expatriates are made to return to their home countries, what happens is another reverse culture shock, in which the expatriates come back to their home country after staying a considerable part of time in the host country, may result from encountering a loss of because they have been away from their original job situation for a number of years. So, what happens, they may lose a decision making authority, see their colleagues behaving strangely towards them, not accepting them as a part of the group, loss of responsibility, so change in one's level of status in the organization. So, he may find like he has to work with an entirely new work group whom he does not know about. So, changes in personal lifestyle which has taken place by these few years that the person has been outside the country, and some technological and organizational changes also. So all these things makes him like him adjust back to the original situation very difficult if the organization doesn't provide any avenues for that adjustment by dealing with this reverse culture shock. Like if we do not have friends who welcome us back and accept us back in the old group, and our organization doesn't have a system, a chart ready, like where I should be placed after I come back from the the host country. So where do I see myself featured in the organizational chart? If all these things are not ready, again it may result in reverse culture shock, and it may become like somewhat difficult for the people to adjust to the old situation. So again, the fourth phase is after this culture shock or the reverse culture shock is the adaptation, where the employees try to accept new culture, regain a sense of self-esteem and respond constructively to their new surroundings at work or at home. So whether it is a culture shock or a reverse culture shock, both ways the work environment is appears to be new or is a new situation for the employees, and they gradually, if they know like this is where I have to adjust because I have no other options given to me at present, I have to adjust and survive in this particular situation. So they try to adapt themselves to there, and they try to accept the new culture and try to assimilate it within themselves. So what are the overcoming barriers to cultural adaptation are? So how can we overcome it? The barriers is through careful selection of employees who are low in ethnocentrism and their flexible openness to acceptance, have a desire to experience another culture and stay in another culture. So have a knowledge of foreign language in the host country. So next is have experience of traveling to the host country previously. So family members are supportive and have a positive attitudes to this assignment, and employ a high cultural intelligence in the sense cognitive strategies for learning about the new cultures, both at the surface level and at the deeper level. So and sense of intuition of what is happening and what is not happening, confidence that one can fit into the new culture and motivating oneself to do so, and the translation of knowledge, intuition and confidence and motivation to appropriate cultural actions. So personality pattern wise, the employee should be flexible enough to get adjusted, should have an open mind for learning, should have curiosity so that he tries to know the culture and get adjusted to it very quickly. So careful selection of the employees will, and judging the employee from all these aspects, psychological aspects of like as we told, like whether he is open enough, whether he is curious enough to learn, whether he has the power of assimilating or not, all this will affect the help the overcoming of the barriers to cultural adaptation. The other ways are compatible assignments of employees within similar socio-cultural clusters at the initial stages, that will help them to act as the in the sense of padding for cultural shock, where you are working with the initially in the initial stages you are working within the similar socio-cultural setup, getting yourself somewhat tension free over there, and gradually proceeding to situations where you are working with dissimilar socio-cultural setup. Before we go for the go for the other country, it is very necessary to have a training on the local language. So, orientation and support to given to the employees to get settled in the new country and help them with the assistance in housing, transportation, shopping, schooling of children, etc. The orientation program should focus to these issues, and also issues regarding what will be done with the like how do the dependents have access to their money, who pays their bills in the like in the home, and like who sends the children to school. These could be small issues, but these are very important issues as related to dealing with the stress level of the expatriates are concerned, and specifically the family of the expatriates are concerned. If the person who is the only male member in the home and he goes to a different country, who is going to take up those responsibilities of the family that he was doing? Like what will be the education of the children, where do they go, who will pay the bills, and how the home rent charges will be paid, and all these factors may be very small issues but crucial issues concerned for the who will take care of the dependents if they fall ill. So these issues come in the mind of the family members, and organization has to take care of these issues. So organizational support is also required in the sense like the employee should have a assurance given to them, like after they come back they will be observed in a considerable position in the organization, which gives worth to these years of experience they have done outside, and so either they get a better or comparable position in the organization, and we should understand their foreign experiences will be valued. Now, how do they then adjust with their co-workers who didn't have this opportunity to go and have this foreign experience, and what are the resistance that these expatriates may face from these colleagues, when some of them who could be jealous and trying to block the communication between the expatriate and them, and sometimes withhold information, do not share, or sabotage which may happen, so that the status of the expatriate in the organization gets lowered. So these could be important issues of behavior and misbehaviors in the workplace as far as expatriation is concerned, and the organization has to lend a support to it, and shows like what should be done in this type of cases. So and the re-entry phase, which is called the repatriation phase, employees face a reverse culture shock, because by this time they have adjusted in the host country, started behaving like them, their localites, and started maybe loving that country, also staying that place. So after again if they have to come back, that is a repatriation, like what are the things again, like cultures, norms, more they have to learn again, some of which of the host country, some of them maybe it's not transferable over in the parent country, and what part they are to like not to shared over here, in the sense it cannot be practiced in the parent country. These again, because throughout these years that the person has been there in the host country, he has changed as a person, his behavior patterns have changed, and he has started behaving like those people, so that he gets more assimilated into their culture. Now, when there is the reverse culture shock, again there is a stage of unlearn, learn and refreezing, unlearn those things what he has learned with great difficulty during these years, and because some of them may look, some of those behavior patterns may be unacceptable or look odd in the home country, and again unlearning those things, relearning some of the home country behaviors, and again refreezing it. So, these may become stressful for the expatriates when they return, the process which is called repatriation to their home country, and this may result in reverse culture shock. So, productivity and cultural contingencies are also related. So, productivity is achieving quantity and quality of results while controlling inputs. The productive practices for a particular country will depend heavily on its culture, that is called cultural contingency. So, idea is that the work in the home nation's culture must be blended with the culture of the host country, and the integration of the most workable ideas from both the nations should take place. So, cultural contingencies are illustrated in theory Z proposed by William Archie. So, theory Z selectively adapts some Japanese practices into the American culture. So, what we have to do, maybe take the good from both the cultures and put it in the practices of the business, practices of the organization. So, like we can also benefit from the culture of the local country and the home country, and we can learn the best from both the cultures and proceed in and increase the productivity in our work. Understanding non-verbal communication is very important for expatriates, because the meaning of non-verbal communication varies from culture to culture. So, and it may vary from country to country, with relative value placed on what is the time efficiency, importance given of time, meaning of time, and thought patterns, values present placed on seeing the future, what is the need for personal space and privacy, how you make eye contacts, what should be your physical appearance, what are the postures, what are the gestures, and meaning of silence, legitimacy of touch. These are certain issues, non-verbal cues, which may differ from country to country, and the expatriates have to adjust to this, learn these ways when non-verbal cues while functioning in a particular environment. So, when considerable attention is given to cultural preparation of expatriate employees, so it should be taken into, the training should be such that they become like transcultural employees. So, the objective is here that they are low in ethnocentrism, they know how to communicate in different cultures, know how to speak maybe more than one language, know the cultures of 2-3 different countries, specifically of the local country where he is going to be functioning, and then he is try to imbibe the best from both the cultures. And so, what happens, like for a firm which is truly multicultural and multinational in character, its all its leaders look the look to the world as an economic and a social unit. They recognize the local culture, respect the local culture, its people, and integrity, acknowledge its benefit, and use it, use the differences, maybe diversity which is there, as a benefit for the organization. So, if cultural differences are there, they try to learn from it, the best from that culture, try to implement those practices in the organization. If there is a difference in looking in the time perspective, difference in the non-verbal communication, different in the ways of thought process, whether you are have a concrete way of thinking, or whether you have a abstract way of thinking of arriving at making decision about a problem. All these things can be learned from the other culture and can be implemented in the particular organization while functioning in a particular country, to improve the business decisions, to improve communication with that particular society and culture, so that the organization gets accepted, getting oneself accustomed to the local culture, respecting it, so that you as an organization get more accepted in the local culture, local country. You try to identify with them, they try to identify with you. The distance is less, the distance between the self of the organization and the self of the employees of a particular country, they becomes less. You get assimilated in each other and try to accept and learn from each other, and as a result both progresses. That should be the ultimate ways of behaving for a MNC in a particular country. So, respect the other culture, assimilate it, try to learn from it and function in a way so that there is a complete blending of the two cultures and ways of functioning. We will now look into some of the questions which are following this chapter are: what are the conditions affecting the multinational operations? What are the major issues in multinational workforce management, and how do you overcome those barriers to cultural adaptation? What is the relationship between productivity and cultural contingencies? What is the importance of cross-cultural communication in this regard? Write short notes on cultural shock and transcultural managers. So, while operating while in a setup, multicultural setup, so you have to become a transnational individual, like having respect both for the home country's cultures and the host country's culture, know the difference, respect the difference, and then blend it together. Don't it's not trying to impose one's own culture on the others, but try to assimilate from the other culture, try to learn from the other culture also, and trying taking the whole, like it's having a very aspect should be like global sort of thing that we call having a global outlook, but functioning in the local way. If that is done, then there is the organization's MNCs becomes more acceptable in the host country, and there's a complete blending, and organizational effectiveness and personal growth will follow. Thank you.